welcome to Real Chicks Rock Presents Real Discussions. I'm your host for today, Michelle Dawes-Bird, and as always, I'm super excited to be here. And I just want to say hi, everybody. Let's just all breathe if we can, because it's been an incredible week here for us in the States. For those of you guys that are listening to my show from abroad, yeah, we're going through a lot here with COVID-19, aka coronavirus. It's just been a very interesting week for us here in the States. And so I want to thank my guest, Jada, for still being willing to come and do the show live and in person. So thanks everybody who's listening and watching remotely. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. A little background about what Real Chicks Rock is all about. We are all about creatively collaborating to connect and raise awareness about issues that impact women. And we just want to try to level the playing field for us if we can. And today is no different. My topic today is protect yourself. Okay? Yeah. We want to protect ourselves today. And it's not so much from a health perspective. I know, again, with the coronavirus is here and impacting thousands of people here in the United States. And so far as it relates this morning, it was about 60 people that unfortunately have died from the virus here in the U.S. Yeah, we're all trying to be prepared and take better care of ourselves. And schools are closed this week for about 2 weeks, and offices are encouraging people, if you can work from home and do all of that. But today, when I scheduled this, it was really a couple of weeks ago, really about a month and a half ago, because my guest, Jada Williams, is very busy. We were thinking more along the lines of protecting ourselves from, as women, and with the abduction, there was a period of time like women would go to the mall, Target, to the stores, and things were happening. Women were coming up missing, like for no reason, like just vanishing. Atlanta is very known, like #1 in sex trafficking here in the States, and so it's just a lot of things that are going on. And I think a couple of my listeners reached out to me and asked me for this topic. Okay. And they just want to understand what we can do, shouldn't do, what our rights could be as women. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to jump into that. So welcome, Jada.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, Jada. I know Jada because she comes from a beautiful family. They're all watching. Hi, Williams family.
Hi.
Yes, thank you to Sean and for introducing me to Jada. And so the love began a couple of years ago when I met Jada, and we've just connected and just always wanted to work or kind of align. And so today is an excellent opportunity. So Jada, tell a little bit about yourself and what type of work you do.
Sure. I am currently a police officer. I have been policing since 1998.
Wow.
That would make 22 years.
Wow.
Ready to retire, but I got a few more years to go.
Wow.
I currently right now work in a school system setting at a high school, and I've been doing that for about 4 years now.
Okay.
I absolutely love it. I love working with children, and I started off as a deputy sheriff in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay, up top.
And so yes, and did that there for about 5 years and moved to Atlanta, and I've been here doing it ever since.
Okay.
So, and that's a little bit about my history. Currently in school for criminal justice, and my hopes, long-term goals are to be a high school criminal justice teacher.
Wow.
On the high school level, it's called Law and Justice.
Okay.
So to teach on the high school level, and then long term, once I'm finished school, be a college professor and teach criminal justice on a college level.
Awesome. You'll do great. I want to ask you why police? Why did you want to be a police officer, Jay?
So my 100% disclosure, transparent answer.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Fasten your seatbelts.
Yes.
What we got?
I was a young mom.
Okay.
Had 2 small children at the time, and at that time had not completed college back then.
Okay.
And was looking for work. Flipping through the paper, and the agency that I worked for back then was hiring, and I'm like, okay, this might work. I think. Let's see what happens.
Police officers?
Yeah, and 22 years later, here I am.
Wow.
So it was not a profession that I actually looked to go into growing up. But I guess it was fate. Just got into it, and I've done pretty good over the last 22 years. Even have ranked. I've been a deputy sheriff sergeant for so many years, and I can tell you that I worked at the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office back then. So shout out to DeKalb County Sheriff's Office. And I got a lot of my toolage, a lot of my growing up in law enforcement actually came through that agency. So I really appreciate them and the experience and training that I received there. But I never looked to get into law enforcement. I just happened upon it because I didn't want to be a statistic, a young mom, unemployed, not working, depending on someone else, the other half, to take care of me and my children. And so there was an opportunity, and someone gave me a chance, and I grabbed the ball and just ran with it.
Was the training difficult for you, Jay, back then, 22 years ago? Was it hard to get in there?
No, because 22 years ago, my bones were not what they are right now.
Talk about it now. Talk about it.
22 years ago was a lot easier for me, the physical agility, and I'm such a competitive person. So for me, getting into law enforcement back then was, as far as the physical part, was very easy for me. But don't be mistaken, it's hard work. It is hard work. There's a lot of, not just the physical aspect, but there's a lot of learning that's involved too, because you have to understand law. It's almost like you can really be an attorney because you're learning so much about the law. And I think for me, the biggest thing is when I first got into law enforcement, I had that gun-ho type of attitude. You're not going to say nothing bad to me. You're not going to disrespect me. And because I'm the police. You're the folks. I'm them folks, right? So as I grew up, and as I grew up in law enforcement, I think one of the biggest things for me became understanding the customer service side of it and how important that is. How we treat people, treating people the way we want to be treated. Those things are truly important, and especially in this day and age, I didn't know back then that kind of honing in on those skills, how important they would be today. But those are the things that you really, take away from this field. Honestly.
There's a couple of things that we can't overlook, right? You're a female and you're black. And again, when you came in, did you feel any resistance, or was it an embrace when you came in? I know it might have been one or two that was like, you don't belong here. And not so much from a color perspective, maybe because you're a woman.
As a woman. I think that there was, like you said, maybe the one or two. And those people, and back then, again, I started off in Virginia. And so those one or two, you really don't want to stand out from everyone else. So it's kind of your message is kind of subliminal. You don't say it, but a lot of those people were like military guys and things of that nature. The good old boys, as I would like to call them. And but for the most part, when I first got into law enforcement, there were not a lot of females in law enforcement back then. So I was a part of that transition. So when you got in, you really were just treated like one of the guys, So there really wasn't a whole lot of pushback because they didn't look at you necessarily as a female. They expected you to really to do what they had to do. You went through the same training, and it could have been a little shady, but it was like, you went through the same training. You have to shoot the same weapon. You have to deal with the same people. Get in there and do what you have to do, and it really tests your fortitude.
How to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And being a single mom, Jada, how did it impact your children? Did it have any impact on them at all?
Very adverse. Very adverse, because in law enforcement, for anyone that's a law enforcement officer, you understand working different shifts. Sometimes things happen right at the end of your shift and you're forced to stay. So if you've worked 12 hours, you may end up doing another 4, 5 or 6 hours. At some point in my career, I had to rotate shifts. So every 6 months, I was working a different shift. So that meant missing school activities, missing just essential parts of my children's lives growing up. And I think that it had a very it was a very hard impact on my oldest 2 children who really, to be honest, kind of had to raise themselves because I was absent so much. And you do the best you can, and you know, I don't live life with any regrets. You know, we do what we can, which is the reason why, for me, I now work in a system where for my youngest daughter, I police where she goes to school. So it helps when we're off at the same time. We can take vacations together. Wish that it had been like that for my oldest too, but it is what it is. And I think that it's giving them skills that they need as well, you know. So yeah, it's rough though. It's very hard. But my kids look up to me. They honor me, and I appreciate that. I love you guys. And I appreciate that very much, them understanding the sacrifices. And I think that parents, whether you're single or married, it's still a sacrifice, you know, for your children. So I just thank God for him being faithful, even when times where I felt like I really couldn't be.
Because real talk, there's no promise that you're going to come back home.
Absolutely not. And my kids worry.
You go to work.
Even now.
Yeah.
Even now, my daughter, if I'm an hour late, my daughter's like, "You don't have class today?" I'm like, "Child, I'm working," but they're very concerned, and I get it. And as a parent, I try to do my best to not have them worry. So even if it's just checking in throughout the day or calling, "Hey, I'm going to be late. Hey, don't forget, guys, I have school today." Random text messages. Those things are important. I think another thing that people should consider as well is in law enforcement, we have the highest rate of divorce, addictions, suicide. And so self-care is so important. And if you are the spouse or a child of someone in law enforcement, just understanding that we need, you know, sometimes when I come in the house, I need a minute. I need to, you know, get all the day off of me, and I need a minute to just bring it on down, you know, because I don't want to bring work home. One thing I know for sure is I turn off my radio as soon as I leave work. I don't want to hear any traffic on my radio. When I'm off, I try to, as best I can, ignore my work cell phone. I have a district phone that I have to keep on me. But I really try to just leave work at work and to detach 100%, because if not, you're constantly looking at emails, you know, getting different alerts. And it's like that for me, even when it comes to the news. A lot of times I don't even want to know because I live in it every single day. So I need time for me. So yeah, but it's rough.
Was it your children or just with your youngest? Did that help drive the decision to come out of doing law enforcement the way you were to come into schools? Was that the driver, or you just wanted to do something different?
There were many different pieces to the puzzle. I think for my children was number one, because I saw again the downside for my oldest two and how it affected them. My youngest daughter has epilepsy and some other medical things stemming from that. And so it was important for me, especially being a single mom, to make sure that I was there for her. And I did not want her to go through those same emotional and psychological issues that my oldest two children went through. That was the first thing. The second thing was, as you get older, you get tired of chasing people. You get tired of fighting people.
Come on, Christy Love.
Exactly. One of my supervisors called me that. And so, you know, you get tired of that. And for me especially, there was a passion for me in law enforcement that just wasn't there anymore. Traditional law enforcement. And I had to ask myself the question, what really makes me happy? Like, when am I at my best? And I love engaging people, and I love working with children, and I've known that my entire life. And so for me, it was like, you know, how can I have the best of both worlds? And so I said, you know what? I'll go into a school setting as a resource officer. And of course, you know, tons of people, you don't want to deal with those children. But I'm like, you know, one of the things that I've learned is that a lot of the behaviors that we run from with these, you know, with youth and with our students, stem from something else. And they need someone there, not just the educators, but they need people who are going to nurture them, who are going to sit and say, you know, hey, I know you've been sleeping in class. but what's going on? Is it something else going on? And you'll be surprised at the depth of the issues that our teens and young adults have these days. So as a school resource officer, we have kind of a trifold as far as our job, and our biggest things are being mentors, counselors, and then the law-related education. So I tell people this all the time, they're like, well, as far as me enforcing the law, I have to reiterate, I am not a school police officer. I am a school resource officer. I am in my school to be a resource to my students. And that's important to me because if the kids are locked up, how are they being educated? If we don't get to we know what the behavior is, but if we don't get to the why, then how do we help? Where's our future? So that for me was like, I need to do this. And the third reason, I'm sorry, that I got into it was because I too wanted to go back to school. So my schedule now allows me the opportunity to go back to school, to be in a different setting, to reach the kids in a different way.
You got it all mapped out.
I'm trying.
You got it mapped out.
I thank God for it.
You got it mapped out.
It took me a long time, but I'm here.
But you're here.
I'm here.
And we appreciate that. So I want to talk to you about really just what's been going on. And let's just use Atlanta as a background.
Sure.
Unfortunately, women just get attacked or for whatever reasons. And so based on your experiences, can you share some of the reasons or maybe some of the settings as to what's going on in our environment with women?
Sure. I think it's important to understand that oftentimes the women that are being attacked are usually those who are in low-income areas, and those who are most times uneducated, which all of that kind of ties in together. And so here in the Atlanta area, surprisingly, when it comes to that, like just general attacks, we talk a lot about, women being maybe in a grocery store and just being attacked, or walking down the street and being drugged somewhere and being attacked. But I think the biggest thing that women should be concerned about is we're being attacked not by strangers, but we're being attacked by the boyfriend. We're being attacked by the baby daddy, by the husband. So I think it's important, for us to understand that domestic violence is huge. And domestic does not necessarily mean that you have to be married. It just simply means that you live together. And so that's a big issue. But that aside from just women randomly, if you're at Walmart and you get attacked, I think it's important for women to... Sometimes we just get so complacent. We don't pay attention to our surroundings. It's no reason why a woman is out by herself grocery shopping after dark. You need to find a time where you could do it during the day, where there's a lot going on. And to be honest, attackers are getting a lot more bold, and it can happen during the day. But chances are it usually won't happen during the day. And so I try to tell women, just stay aware of your surroundings, pay attention. I know a lot of times, like at MARTA stations, these types of things happen. And even though we have MARTA police there, a lot of women are attacked at in settings like that because they're not paying attention. They have their headphones on. We're on our cell phones. We're thinking about what am I going to cook for dinner. We're not paying attention to our immediate surroundings. And so a lot of times women become targets also because just historically we are the weaker vessel. And that's no disrespect to my strong women, but it's the truth. When men usually can overpower us, and historically we've been seen as you're the one who's supposed to be cooking, or we're there for relations and things like that. So men feel that they have this certain power over us anyway. And so because we're the weaker ones and then we're not paying attention, we usually become targets of attack. But in no means does that mean that the woman is at fault. Ever. You're never at fault because someone chose to violate you. So
do we find that sometimes some of the people that are attacking us had been watching us for a while as well? Or is it more of a just a spontaneous thing?
It can go both ways. I think depending on, because no situation is ever the same.
Okay.
So you can't lump any of it all together.
Okay.
I think what happens is, for instance, if you are a female and you live alone, and whether it's in a home or in an apartment complex or whatever, you have people around you all the time. So of course people are watching you. So your neighbors that know you and your neighbors that don't, everyone knows that you're there by yourself. Or even if you're not there by yourself, they know that maybe your husband, your boyfriend, he doesn't come home till 9. You get home at 7 because you have the same routine, and so people are watching. And so it is important that we alternate our routine, that we don't do the same things all the time. Maybe take a different route home, instead of getting home at 7 every day, maybe, today I'll get home at 8:30, just to give yourself some variety in how you operate, so that the person who may be watching you is thrown off their game. That's very important. I know that I have had in the past previous people who have worked with me, but as my subordinates, a couple of young ladies who pull it into their garage. They pull in the garage, they let the garage door down, someone slipped into the garage and attacked them in their garage. I've had that happen a couple of times to people that I know. So you have to be very, very vigilant, paying attention to your surroundings. And like I said, changing your routine, because if I know you're going to get home at 5:30 every day, I'm going to wait for you, tomorrow at 5:30. So changing your routine is one of the biggest things that women can do. And another thing is just what I tell people when we talk about how we protect ourselves. A lot of times it's just using plain old common sense. You can't be so engrossed in what you're doing that you're not paying attention to the things around you.
Yeah, because you could maybe deflect it better if you could see it coming.
Absolutely.
If you're aware of what's going on. I know we are, as women, our biggest thing is we are multitaskers, right? So we're doing multiple things at one time. We're on the phone, and it's bad for me. I'm going to just put it out there. And I try not to get out the car because I got a son, he's 12, I'm on the phone, people are calling, they're texting, they're doing kind of stuff. And he's talking to me too while I'm on the phone, I'm doing things because he's trying to get my attention on some stuff. And most times I have to just say stop. Like everything I stop. And I don't get out of my car until I'm together, until I'm present in the moment. And just looking around, because there's just so much that's going on. When you come off exit ramps, there's people soliciting, doing stuff, asking, panhandling, coming up, then people want to ask you for directions. It's all this stuff. I'm like, where's other people? Like, why are you asking me? Like, no, I don't necessarily. So sometimes I'm just like, the defense mechanism is automatically up.
Absolutely.
And I do take MARTA, to and from work. So definitely you have to pay attention, because there's just a lot of people and bodies, and the police is there, but they can't be everywhere.
Right.
And unfortunately, going to work, you go at the same time for the most part. You're going to leave at the same time, but the expectancy coming home should be different. Try to switch that up.
I think too, now if there's a situation where you're taking any type of public transportation, it may be a little difficult as far as bus scheduling or train schedule or what have you. So it's hard, but when you're in those environments, it's still important that you're paying attention to your surroundings. I wouldn't carry a whole lot of bags. Bags attract people.
Carry a lot of bags.
But bags attract people, because if you have a bag, there's something in it that you need.
Yeah.
So if you need it, then I need it too.
They want it too.
Exactly. So I think that it's important to make sure that your hands are free. Things of that nature. Don't have your phone out. All those things are important. But if you're driving, absolutely switch up your route. You don't have to take 20 every single day. Take the back roads one day. So all those things are important. But again, if you're on public transportation, just try to minimize what you have in your hands, so that you're not distracted and you're not giving someone else more to more of a reason to try to come after you.
Jada, what can we do to protect ourselves? Like, what can we physically do? I want to talk about that first, and then what may be our rights in doing that. So what can we do anything physically to protect ourselves when somebody attacks us?
People talk about self-defense classes, and me personally, I think that they're great.
Okay.
I can't say that they will always work.
Come on.
Because, but I think that self-defense classes are a great tool.
Okay.
Because self-defense classes, they don't only teach you technique as far as the art of defense, but they will teach you some of the things that we're talking about today, how to, pay attention, what to look for if a person is, watching you or acting kind of shifty around you. So those classes do teach you some of those alerts and those red flags to look for. So they're very important. Another thing is a lot of our police agencies have community policing programs for the public. And you can partake in that, where you can learn some different skills and different things to do. And it gives you a chance to network with your local police department. So you become a friend with the cop. That always helps.
That helps.
People always, bashing the police. But I'm a believer that if you're in help, they're the first person that you're going to call. So, become familiar with your local, jurisdiction. The other thing is, as far as weapons and things of that nature, I see a lot of women who will carry like the mace on the keychains and things like that. Problem with that is it'll get clogged because of the ingredients that they use. So if it sits for a long time and you've never had to use it, and the day come where you need to actually use it, it might not come out, or you may not be able to get to it. But it's still, a tool to have just in case. It is an option. As far as firearms,
I was going to talk about that because somebody's packing.
Always.
Somebody got their joint. You understand what I'm talking about?
Always.
Woo! Yeah, how we doing with that?
I never, what's the American Express?
You never leave home
never
without
leave home without it. Never. But yeah, I think for me, I'm an advocate for a firearm.
Okay.
I mean multiple, like as many as you can.
What you got, Jay? Come on and talk to the people, Jada. What you got? What you got?
I am an advocate for firearms, because, a lot of people say, they're afraid, or I don't want to have that around my children. My thought process is that if I would rather have it and not ever have to use it than to need it and I don't have it. So, not just to have it, but it is so important, and I can't stress this enough, that you learn how to use it.
Okay.
That's important. If you're in the home, in your home, I would have something in the home that I don't want to tell people what to buy and what to use, but I would have something in my home that would help protect my home. I'll say that. Depending on where you work, you may not be able to carry, but for me, I mean, of course, just being a police officer, but even if that were not my profession, I would have a firearm. But again, my biggest thing is not to just have it, but to learn how to use it. I'm also an advocate for teaching your children. There is an age limit. I'm not sure what it is right now. I know that you have to be 21. However, gotta say this so that I'm politically correct. When my children were younger, with a clear weapon, I taught my children what it was. I did not want them to be curious and then go play with the gun or do anything crazy with the weapon. I did sit them down. This is not TV. If you shoot it and you shoot someone else, they are going to die. So I had those conversations, and I never had an issue with my children. For me, and I'm not suggesting this to anyone else, I do not lock my firearms up. I put them somewhere so I know where they are. My oldest child, who is still in the home, knows where it is if something happens. Of course, my issued weapon, my work weapon, I keep right next to me all the time. But as far as any other weapons, it's important to me to have them and to teach my children. Because if I'm not home and something happens in my home, I need them to be able to defend themselves. And I know sometimes for me it can be a little overkill because I'm constantly like, where are the exits? If this happens, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
I'm always, and to go back to the last question, as far as us protecting ourselves, I'm always going over scenarios. I'm constant, like, I'm probably paranoid, but I'm constantly, you know, if someone comes in this door, how am I going to respond? How am I going to react? And I'm not thinking about how am I going to save Michelle. I'm thinking about how am I going to take this person out? What do I need to do to get the best vantage so I can, you know, so I'm constantly, and I'm not, you know, I don't want people to, in thinking about weapons and how do I protect myself, to think like I think. I think that my perceptions are a little jaded just because of my profession. But I would rather have it and have the mentality that I have than to not, and to get caught in a situation where I could not defend myself. So,
and that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I think more and more women are leading that way in the sense of, what can I do to protect myself?
I'm all for it.
And even the guys or the men that are in our lives are saying, like, you might need to get a little firearm or something.
Yeah, because I can't be there all the time.
Yeah, because
and what if
people are
I
crazy.
need you to help me?
Yeah, because people are crazy.
They are.
And you know, my dad, may rest in peace, he said, better to be judged by 12 than to be carried by 6.
That's so true. But the biggest thing for me is the training. Even for us in law enforcement, the training is so important. And I say this to the general public because it can get kind of tricky with the law, because if I'm being attacked by you and I'm just shooting, I never shoot you, but I shoot all the 8 people standing behind you, I'm still responsible for those people. So it's important to not just do what you have to do to protect yourself, but to be trained the right way for whatever avenue you choose to take as far as protecting yourself. Know your laws. Know the laws as far as it relates to self-defense. Understand and stand your ground, because that does not always apply. Those laws are sometimes in place, but they are very detailed. And so for most people, they don't really know the law. They know the title of the law, but they don't know all the verbiage that goes in line with those laws. So it's very important that if you're going to put yourself, or if you say, okay, I'm going to carry a firearm, what are the laws that go along with, if I have to shoot this, how is this going to work? Because if you come to my home, but you have not physically passed that threshold and came into my home, I don't have the right to shoot you. If you're in my home, but you turn around like you're going back out my home and I shoot you in your back, we still have a problem.
Yeah, we do.
So people have to understand, you know, if you came in my home and you left and now you're running down the street, but I had already started shooting and I'm chasing you, you better stop at your door and not pursue this person. It's against the law. So understanding how, and then sometimes even depending on, you know, just depending on how the situation unfolds, you may try to shoot a person, but are you being excessive in how you're responding to the attack? So you really have to understand how the law works. I think for me, that's the biggest thing before we start getting into weapons and things of this nature. Learn the law. Learn the law.
And then train.
Train. Please
Was
train.
it difficult for you, Jay, when you started carrying a weapon or learning how to fire it off? Oh, look at her giving me the Clint Eastwood look. It wasn't. Come on, Jada.
I love shooting.
What?
I love shooting. It is like a high. Like, I love it. It's terrible. I do. I absolutely love it. And again, because I'm so competitive. So, you know, when we're training, we have what they call like a stress test kind of shooting scenario. And, you know, we go through different just different ways of shooting, different things. Of course, there's a time limit. You have to get so many rounds off in so much time. So because I'm so competitive, I'm always like trying to outdo myself. And because I feel it's still filled with men, y'all not going to shoot better just because you're a man. You think you shoot better than me? I think the highest we can get is a 300. So far, I've been able to shoot a 290. out of 300.
Come on, girl.
Don't play. I don't play around. I don't play around. Literally, you're supposed to be going to the range. So as y'all can see, I have nails.
Yeah.
I said, can you cut this nail down? This one and this one. So I can.
So you can get it. So you can get it.
I don't care if these two shorter than the rest.
Oh my!
I need to be able to shoot my
gosh.
weapon when it's time.
How many firearms do you have, Jada?
Right now I
I
have
don't even want to look. What you got?
3.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I keep them hidden. I don't want to tell anybody.
No,
like
no.
even if I'm just saying, even if like we were dating,
Yeah.
you don't need to know everything.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right.
Keep it on the down low.
Pick.
Yes. You can go to your local pawn shop and find weapons too.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you of course have to go through background check.
Yes.
Get clearance. You can't be a convicted felon.
Did you say that again? She said
You cannot be a convicted felon. They will run your stuff. You're gonna go to jail. But you can find firearms pretty reasonably. I would say find what fits for you.
Yeah, right.
And I would test it. You can get a smaller weapon. You can get a bigger weapon. I have big hands, so for me, I need something that I can, with a bigger grip on it.
Mm-hmm.
They have weapons where you can add grips to it. They have with smaller grips. If you have a smaller hand, the caliber of the weapon makes a difference. But knowing how to shoot the weapon so you don't get that recoil, that jerk. I mean, it's just so many things that go along with shooting. That's why I say training is important. Not being afraid of it.
Okay.
A lot of people shoot, they close their eyes. You can't see what you're shooting at, but your eyes closed. So you got to get used to the weapon. Take it out. There's a place in, since we're in Atlanta, there's a place in Smyrna. It's called Adventures Outdoors. They're often on Groupon, so you can go and you can shoot and you can rent a weapon. That way you can test it out and see what it's about. So, yeah, but I would say train and learn the law.
I used to have a firearms license. Yeah, I think I'm going to get it renewed.
Yeah, you can go to your local court.
And just really practice. The thing is just really practicing and getting comfortable with it. Because each handgun has different powers, and there's different type of bullets that you can use in each one, and how you trying to hurt them or you trying to take them out. Like there's different degrees.
Depends on how you feel.
Yeah, there's different degrees on what you want to do when you shoot
Right.
and hold a weapon. So that's a whole nother education, mindset. You got to be realistic, be calm with it, because it is very powerful.
It is
to have a weapon in your hand.
And I think for anyone that's considering it, just a little nugget: you can go to your local magistrate court. I think it's magistrate court. I know in DeKalb for sure. You can go right downtown Decatur and do the application to be processed to legally carry. And there's different types of permits. So you can get a concealed permit, or you can do just the regular open carry.
Yeah.
So, but once you go down there, I think it's like a small fee. It's not that much, and you just apply for your permit. But definitely make sure you have a permit before you start going to carry weapons.
And Jada, you talked about knowing our rights when someone invades our home. I wanted to ask, what are our rights when someone approaches us and we are equipped to carry a firearm on us? We have our permit. We're good. We went to their training, and we're paying attention, and somebody comes and tries to snatch us up, put us in some kind of van or whatever, and we shoot them. Are we within our rights, or it just depends on the situation?
I think oftentimes it depends on the situation. So you talked about someone trying to take you and put you in a van. So we'll stick with that, stay in that vein.
Right.
Especially now because we have so much going on with sex trafficking, labor trafficking.
Yes.
People being sold for organs and things like that. If someone snatches you and they take you, they accost you and they put you in a van or something like that, and you are in reasonable fear of your life, you have to be able to articulate that based on whatever that circumstance was, and whatever recourse you take is what you take. But you have to be able to articulate that, because we have to understand that if you use a firearm, that is deadly force. So even for us who are considered government agents, police officers,
Right.
we have to be able to articulate why we use the force that we use. So even for you as a regular citizen, you have to be able to articulate, this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I was in a reasonable fear of my life,
Right.
and these are the actions that I took because of A, B, C, and D.
Mm-hmm.
So you really now, if I don't know, just something crazy like you mad at your boyfriend and he tell you to get in the car and he grab your arm and you shoot him. Ma'am.
It was Jada's face. It really wasn't funny, but her face made me laugh. The expression.
That's
Jada's
what
funny.
the judge gonna do the same thing.
That's what the judge is gonna do. That's not gonna work.
Ma'am.
So we don't need that.
No. You literally have to be able to articulate.
Right.
I was in fear. I thought I was going to die.
Right.
You have to be able to justify force.
You do.
Any force, but deadly force, you have to be able to justify it because no one's above the law. No one, not even us, police.
Mm-hmm. Did she give the look? She gave the look. No
Yeah,
one. I know. So talk to me, Jada, about now that you've changed your role. You still have the passion, and now it's geared towards kids in schools. Are they coming to schools with firearms a lot?
Not at my school.
Not at her
Love
school.
y'all.
But in general, just
in general, I can't say if they're coming to school with firearms a lot. I can say that we don't get a whole lot of school shootings.
Okay.
Now, I know for my district, we do random school searches.
Okay.
And so we don't get firearms. I think since I've been where I am now, we may have recovered one firearm in the last 2 years.
Okay.
And it was never brandished. It was never used. It was just a tip we have a tip line, and it was a tip from a student because that particular kid bragged to somebody else, I'm going to bring my, so-and-so's gun to school tomorrow.
Right.
Not to use it or do anything
But
crazy like that. Just to have it because kids do stuff like that.
that.
And so we were able to recover it. There was no, of course there's disciplinary actions and things of that matter, but there was no pandemonium set in because of it or anything like that. So, but we don't get a whole lot of weapons. In general, I don't think that just when you look at schools case by case, individual schools, I don't think that you will get a whole lot of weapons on school grounds. I think what happens is that a lot of our kids will post. I don't believe that they don't have access to these weapons.
Understood.
Because they're posting them online. You see them online, and I have detectives at my school all the time. And a lot of times, what will happen is these kids who are posting are getting likes by my children. So now they want to know, does this kid, not the one with the weapon, but this kid who liked the picture or commented on it, they go to Drew? It's plenty of schools, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just like, yes, that child does, but this child does not. And so I thank God for that I don't have a whole lot of issues like that at my particular school. And to that point, in the district that I'm in now, since I've been there, we haven't had any school shootings at all either. So, which is a great thing.
That's excellent.
Now, marijuana is something else. Yeah, that's different. But no weapons.
So, for the young ladies that attend schools, high schools in general, are they getting attacked from males within the school or by other females? Is it pretty violent or aggressive in high schools right now?
I think that kids fight.
Okay.
Brothers
Fighting
and sisters
is different
fight.
than being attacked.
Fighting is different than being attacked, and we don't get a lot of attacks. What I find is that I do get young ladies who come to my school, who will come to school, or their parents will come to school and say, my daughter got a DM from this grown man saying that he'll give her money, he'll buy her clothes, or we'll have cases where someone is grooming our young ladies. And by grooming, I mean, I'll pay you money to do this. Something simple, you know, or, oh, your mom, you know, she don't buy you clothes. She don't buy, oh, okay, well, I'll buy you some clothes. I'll buy you food. So you start grooming. And so now I'm doing all these things for you. And eventually,
You're going to want it back. Something back.
you're going to have to give me something back in return. And that's a segue, ladies and gentlemen, into sex trafficking, which is huge, and especially amongst high school and college girls. They don't want us. We too old. Ma'am. But our young girls, yeah, they, you know, but these girls, I would say between the ages of 13 to maybe 24-ish.
Yes.
Huge target, and a very huge market, because sex trafficking is a billion-dollar business. It's a business. It's not just about, you know, let me snatch this person and then have sex with them. It's not about that, because then that would just be rape.
Right.
We're talking about, I'm going to sell you to the highest bidder. You know, we're talking about an exchange for weapons or drugs. This is a business. And contrary to what people believe, a lot of people believe that the area, you know, Clayton County, College Park, those areas around the airport may be the highest for sex trafficking, but it's not. The highest area for sex trafficking, labor trafficking in Atlanta is more of your northern area.
Really?
Because those people have more money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where you're going to get a lot of cases. Unfortunately, those numbers, even though it's happening, the numbers that are reported are not that high.
Yeah.
So even with attackers, just regular women just being attacked, a lot of times, because a lot of it is more domestic, a lot of it goes undetected, because a lot of women don't even report it for reasons of shame or, you know, just the embarrassment of it all. They don't even report it. So the numbers, although they're high, in my opinion, I believe that they're much greater than what's actually being reported, because a lot of women just don't report.
And you know, sometimes it's like, well, it won't make a difference.
It won't.
You know, I'm not going to say,
that's what they
it's not
say.
gonna make a difference.
That's what they say. It won't make a difference. Who's going to do anything?
Yeah.
And it's already happened. It's done. What are you
Right.
gonna do? And it's
I'll
been
know better
done
the next time.
Yeah, unfortunately. But what a lot of people don't realize is that there are a lot of resources, whether it's for sex trafficking. If you're a victim of sex trafficking, there are a lot of resources that are put in place for them, whether it's counseling, relocation, as far as the government helping to pay for housing for you and your family, especially if you come to the country as a victim of sex trafficking. There's different type of visas that you can obtain, whether it's a T visa or a U visa, and those are different types of visas that you can look into. But there are resources, but a lot of people believe that, and even for domestic violence, to that point, within your local jurisdictions, there are safe houses and a lot of other resources that they put into play for a lot of these women who are victims of domestic violence. Right. But a lot of women don't know that, and so again, they feel like, what's the point? You know, who's really protecting me? You know, what's going to happen from this point on? Because they don't know. We don't broadcast that. You know, we can talk about coronavirus all day, but we don't flash on the news, hey, if you're a victim of, we don't talk about that. So a lot of women don't feel like anyone care. But those resources, ladies, are out there. They're out there. You know, and I know for sure in DeKalb, I just did I don't know whether to call it a symposium or what have you, but with the DeKalb DA, assistant DA, we just did a little summit on sex trafficking. So I know that they have, specifically in DeKalb County, they have resources for victims of not only domestic violence, but sex trafficking as well.
Awesome. Shouts out to DeKalb County.
Shouts out to DeKalb County. A lot of resources in DeKalb County.
Come on now.
A lot of resources, and they work very closely. They have task forces that work specifically for these types of things. I know DeKalb County Sheriff's Office, they have a domestic violence unit, and they specifically work in that realm. You can come at any time, 24 hours a day. The jail is always open. They have shelters.
The jail is always open.
Well, no, the business hours, they do shut down at a certain time.
She said the jail is
back door
open.
is open, but the front door closes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But we do. They have a call button. They have resources there. They'll find shelter. The deputies will transport you and your children. There's different types of shelters. But I think in the city of Atlanta as a whole, and this is something that I do want to bring up, is that a lot of our shelters, you may have a shelter for women that don't allow boys. So, or you may have a shelter for women and children, but if your son is a certain age, you know, he wouldn't be able to stay. So I think that that's something as a whole that we probably should work on.
Yeah.
But there is housing, even within the school districts. I know within my school district, we have something called Communities in Schools.
Right.
We do have a Community in Schools representative at my school who's awesome with finding housing for families. Just outside of whether you were attacked or not, just those resources are there. And it's an opportunity to put you in a better situation economically and socially, so that you can kind of, because it really don't matter where you are, you know, people believe that, but it does happen more often in some of these neighborhoods where poverty exists or what have you. But just if we can put ourselves in a better position to do better, to live better, to be better, perhaps we can try to avoid some of this other stuff that's going on.
Right.
So reach out to your local schools, your counselors, your police department. Churches have resources. But just knowing that people care and there are people out there who do have what you need to get to that next step.
They're committed to making sure this doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
I got a couple more questions. Now, I typically don't do this, but this is good. Would you be open for questions if somebody called in?
Sure.
Okay, so she said, sure. If you have questions, because this is good. This is good. You feel free to call us at 470-251-4343. 470-251-4343 if you have questions for Jada Williams, my police officer. I have a question for you. I want to take it back to the statement that you said. Oftentimes, we assume that high sex trafficking is happening around the airports and College Park, but it really happens in the north side of town because of the money. Is it the money because of what they can give to the person in the sex trafficking, or the recipient of the sex person? I guess
I see what you're saying. So the person who's facilitating this trade, there's a price that they set for whatever that person is that they're going to trade off. And of course, I don't have, $5,000, $10,000 to give you for this person, but I'm sure a person that lives, a more lavish lifestyle, they have it. So that's where a lot of our numbers come from those other areas. So yeah.
I'm gonna ask you this, Jada. You're a good police officer. You're one of the good ones. Unfortunately, we have seen in media and things in life that some of our own have died at the hands of law enforcement. Is there any suggestions or tips that you can share with us, especially as women? Because now it's no respecter of women. If we out of line, if they feel we're out of line, we're gonna get hemmed up on the ground, we kissing dirt or whatever. Is there anything that we can do as citizens, that when we come into a situation, what we should do, what we should say, how we should act? Just some tips to help us be better as we protect ourselves.
Sure, it's a load. I personally feel like that's a loaded question, only because it's such controversy behind people saying what you should or shouldn't do. Because I think the end result is people just blame the police.
I got you.
You know what I mean? So you can put your hand on the steering wheel. You cannot talk back. You cannot, and people feel like, well, why can't I say what I want to say? I think that for me, and I'm only speaking from my own experience. I I said earlier that going into law enforcement, I had that whole.
Yeah.
You see my badge?
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah.
Do you,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I had that type of mentality. This was way before all this stuff started happening with this breakdown between community and police.
Yes.
I do believe that breakdown has been here historically.
Yes.
I think now in this new age of technology with cell phones and things of that nature, it's easy for me to record it and you instantly see the story.
Right.
It's not so easy to hide.
Yes.
But as far as contact with the police, from a law enforcement perspective, what I do know is that probably more people than not have a bad taste in their mouths about police. And so when I arrive on the scene, my hair's already standing on the back of my head, because not just because of what I'm running into, and people would say, you get paid to do that, you know, pay me enough. So, but I have a job to do. Yeah. So I'm running into this thing and I'm already like, what am I going to be faced with? Because like you said earlier, is my mom going to come back home today?
That's right.
So these things are always, my instincts are, I have to survive.
Yes.
That's what we've been trained to do.
Okay.
You want to handle the situation, but you want to go home the way you came. So for me, my mind is always on handle the situation, but you have to survive. And so if I'm encountering a situation and I'm over here, and then Michelle runs up, and Michelle, hey, I'm not, ma'am. You know, and the same way I told you earlier in law enforcement, where the officers didn't look at me any different as a female officer,
right.
We don't look at citizens as male and female. You are obstructing me from doing my job.
I got you. Okay.
You are causing, because I need to focus on what's going on, and you're not allowing me to do that. I think a lot of times people should just step back and allow us to do our job. Again, no one is above the law.
Right.
It's the officer's job to enforce the law. We have a huge book that we have to enforce. It is the judge's job to interpret the law. I'm only enforcing it. So my thing is to the innocent bystanders, to the people that have nothing to do with the situation, step back, let the police do their job. If you're involved in a situation and you see like a lot of these situations where the police come up and they just slamming folks and just, you know, I really can't speak to why they're responding that way in some of these situations. I do know that we only get part of the story initially. Right. We only see that part. We don't know what happened before. You know, and I think keep in mind, too, that when you are a 911 responder, I just got a call for domestic violence, and I just dealt with you and your husband, right? So he done beat the snot out of you, and you're not even recognizable, and I just had to send you for surgery, and I don't know if you're going to make it. And I'm dealing with that. Last 2 days ago, I went into a home, and a mother killed all her kids and herself. I'm still dealing with that. Now I'm coming to your situation, and all you did was steal some cigarettes out the store. But I got all of this stuff on me. And all I'm getting from you is, enough for that, I ain't get. So, and that is absolutely not an excuse.
Understood.
But from a person in this field, I understand that we carry a lot. We carry a lot, and oftentimes we don't know how to get that stuff off of us. And so instead of us dealing with this case and then moving to the next, we take this case and this case and this case and this case until we explode. Now, a lot of the things that I have seen in the media, I absolutely do not agree with. But I am always wanting to know what else happened. I see what I see, and I don't agree with that, but what else happened?
Right.
And so I think as far as the citizens and how they respond to the police, I think it's important to understand that the police are doing their jobs. And even if an officer, I think I seen something on social media the other day. The part that I saw the officer was running up. Something happened, and I don't know what happened, but I saw him go back to a young lady and kind of slam her on the ground. Very small, fragile young lady, and that's what the media plays on.
Right.
This poor little girl. I don't know what caused him to do that. But for me, if it were me and I were a female and I was dealing with that same female, would it be that poor little girl? Or would it just be the female officer slammed her? Or it might be because people just don't like the police. You know what I'm saying? So, but for the public, how you respond to the police is to just let them do their jobs. Because at the end of the day, it's gonna come out.
Okay.
It's gonna come out. Okay. You know. Again, some of these cases, like I'm trying to show you my ID and you just shoot me. Why?
Yeah.
I would never be able to understand why. You know what I mean? I'm selling CDs and you choking me. Why are we choking people?
Yeah.
You know, so it's certain things that I see. I'm always still asking what else happened.
Yeah. How did we get here?
But how did we get there? You know, but if they ask you to do something, just do it. You know, and to my fellow officers, you have to be mindful, too, that you always have to just treat people the way you want to be treated. You know what I mean? If it's a volatile situation and I have to respond that way, it is what it is. But if I can de-escalate, if I can bring the stress level down, if I can take a minute to just assess what's going on, sometimes we don't even have a second. And that's what people have to understand in law enforcement. I have a split second in a very volatile situation to determine what do I need to do in this situation. I don't have a minute to sit back and come up with a plan on how I'm going to get my weapon and go into the store and rob everybody in the store. And I'm going to take a Pepsi and I'm going to get some cigarillos and a few lottery tickets, with this BB gun that everybody think is a real gun.
I'm going to get a Pepsi?
Yeah, the big one. Just saying.
She said a big one. Yeah.
I don't have time to plan.
Right.
I just know that I just came into the store and you got a gun. I don't know it's a BB gun.
Right.
I just see a weapon. I see people laying on the floor afraid. So if I come in and I say drop the weapon and you turn and you shoot it you point it at me.
Yeah.
In my brain for that split second, what is my response supposed to be?
Yeah.
So it's like, and I'm always asking, what happened before you saw me take the shot? And that's why when we determine deadly force, there is a 3-pronged test that the officers have to go through. That's why I say know your law.
Right.
There's a battery of things that the courts will look at and say, did this happen? Was this in play? Did this happen? Did this happen? And if we can check those boxes off, it's going to be justified. If we can't check the boxes off, then it's not going to be justified.
Right.
So you really have to put your mind in, what was that officer thinking at that time? What would a reasonable person think if they were in that same situation? And that's what a lot of people don't consider. What would a reasonable person do in the same situation? Again, some of these things I'm like, why did that happen?
Right.
But some of the stuff I'm like, come on, y'all. We doing the best we can. So.
Okay. All right. You speaking at schools, Jada? What you doing? You on fire. Yeah. You speaking at schools? What's going on?
Well, with my school, I do have a mentoring program at my school. Most recently, I've done a workshop with my parents in conjunction with my parent liaison at my school. But my goal is to eventually do some public speaking.
Yeah.
Around that, there is one of my professors, I'll shout her out, Dr. Michelle Allen. She's an awesome mentor. And initially, when I decided to go back to school, I told her and Dr. Philip Neely, Dr. Neely, if anyone's watching. A lot of people probably know Dr. Neely. He's probably Atlanta famous. But Dr. Neely's a cool guy. And when I first went in, I said, well, I'm going to get my degree in sociology. And Dr. Neely sounded like an old Baptist preacher. It's like, for what? And I said, because that's what I want to do. And he said, well, in criminal justice, you can do so much. I have a degree in criminal justice, and here I am teaching it on this level. You can do public speaking, you can do this, you can do that. And you don't realize that there's a need for conversation.
Yes.
And, for me, I think that eventually I want to get involved with, public speaking and to empower women. Especially,
we like
especially,
we like
yes.
Like that part.
Because I don't think that women. One, I don't think that women truly know their power. I don't think they truly know their power. And two, I don't think we have enough big mamas and big sisters like we used to have back in the day, where I can help you, not for me to just empower you, but for me to hone in on your skills, on your talents, on your gifts, so that you can then empower yourself. You know what I'm saying? We don't have enough people saying, girl, you are beautiful. Girl, you are talented. Did you hear what you just said? Have you thought about public speaking? Not just even, I have a lot of girls who I do in my school. We have the law and justice. I was telling you, we have the law and justice classes. And so shout out to Mr. Sims, who lets me come in and do debates with his students. And the girls will be debating, and it's always the females. They love to argue. So they going back and forth. And people say, you need to be an attorney. And I'm like, being an attorney is not about arguing.
Right.
Being an attorney is knowing how to win.
Yeah.
And so I want girls to understand that we can win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so for me, those things are important. I think that's why I love being in the arena that I'm in, because you get them when they're young. And even if I don't see how things manifest, I know that I've planted a seed. And that's important to me. I might not see the flower grow, but I know that seed was placed in the ground.
Right.
And so that's important to me. But if I ever had the opportunity to speak or do different things.
She said if she ever. I
just put that out there in the
atmosphere. We got you working on some things. You're going to let unfortunately the coronavirus has impacted our school schedules. And so everything that was on the docket, on calendars, is postponed, shifted. So this school year is probably going to be tough. You probably just want to focus and allow the kids to get through the school year, and kind of hopefully we'll get through this sooner than later. Yeah. But we're going to be working on some things in the fall, and I see your future very bright, young lady.
I see you too. Put your shades on. It's bright.
Will be doing some things to empower the masses, because we're not perfect, but we are empowered.
We absolutely are.
And that's what we need. So how can the people get at you, Jada? If people have questions or something, can they slide in your DM and ask a question? I'm going to look this way.
Yeah, So before I get into that, let me just say I want to make 2 points. One, we're talking about girls and girls being empowered, but I want you guys to know that when it comes to sex trafficking, right now there are more boys being sex trafficked than girls. So young fellas, those of you with sons, please let your young boys know that this is not just a woman issue. This is happening to boys as well. That's the first thing when it comes to sex trafficking. My second thing is, Michelle brought up the point about schools being out because of the coronavirus. I know in my particular district and many others like Atlanta, some gave a 2-week time frame, but many are indefinite. My school district is out indefinitely, and I want to say that these districts are still feeding our children, still giving resources to our children. This is not a vacation. The children are still having to go home and learn. They have to go online. If your child is not able to get online or access the internet, the school should still be giving you resources so that your child can, still learn, and at some point turn these assignments in. So this is not a break, but there are many districts that are open and they're feeding. I know in my particular district we have 10 schools that are open to feed. So if you see my face and you know that you work with me, there are schools that are open in our district. Go online if you can, or check out Instagram, our Facebook page. to find out what those locations and times are. I will be there a couple of days myself, helping to feed. So a lot of people don't realize that our students don't. The only time that they do get a meal
when they
is
come to school.
Yeah, when they come to school.
Absolutely.
So
which is 2 meals a day. Breakfast and lunch.
Which is 2 meals a day,
Right.
and it is a portioned meal. So you don't get to just eat as much as you want. Thank God for my nutritional staff who are very understanding. So if I do have a student who's like, I'm hungry, we will do whatever we can.
I know that's
We've
right.
fed families. Again, my community and school rep, she have frozen meals that we have all the time. We have a clothes pantry at our school. We'll wash clothes for our students at our school. We have a lot going on. So again, if you see my face, you know what school I'm at. If you're in need of anything, reach out to us. Again, I am a school resource officer, not a police officer. It is not my first thought to lock students up. That is not the most important thing for me. My job is to educate and to get them to the point where they are empowered and that they can go out into this world and be better for themselves and make the world a better place. To reach me.
Come on, Black History in the making. Come on.
Oh, shout out to
Black History in the making. Come
Alfred
on.
Laundry, ALFERDLAUNDRY at Call Me Shivy, at Call Me Shivy on Instagram.
Shout outs.
My homeboy, he makes these shirts and the free food program shirts. So shout out to him. Awesome entrepreneur doing this thing. But to reach me, I am on Instagram at wiser_now, at WISER_now. Please tell me why you're DMing me, what it's for. I will block you. I am still a police officer. I don't know you. Stop stalking me.
Ask a question. Or you can ask me. You guys can always come through realchicksrock.com.
She can filter it all.
Yeah, and we can filter it and send it to, especially if you're looking for resources, if you want questions, you have questions and you need some answers, because really it was all about protecting ourselves and understanding our rights. Not just for women, but for men too. Everybody that's watching, we have men and women that watch the show, and we thank you for that support. But we want to be able to protect our people when they leave. We want them to come back home safely every day.
Absolutely.
We want them to be safe in the homes. So if you choose to carry a firearm, we ask that you get proper training to use it, get a permit. Get familiar with your local police department so they know you in a good way. And just get the tools that you need. Ask the questions. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Trafficking is a thing. People getting snatched up, not coming back, missing, all that kind of stuff. We have to stop that. We want our families to come back home every single day. So again, if you have any questions, Jada will screen the questions, the people that come at her. I'm a little bit more of an open format, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll pass them on to Jada, and then we'll get you the resources that you need. And she's very excited about sharing, so if you do want her to come to your school, that's another thing. Feel free to ask her so that she can come and empower your students with knowledge, because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Wasn't that wonderful?
That was awesome.
That
I'm
was
so happy to
yes,
be here.
Thank you, Jada, for coming. This was wonderful. You're very good.
Thank you, because Real Chicks Rock.
Yeah, all day. And you guys know where to get at me. I'm everywhere. So I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. We got the website, realchicksrock.com. We are still hustling the new shirt. See that? That's not a V-neck. That's a regular scoop neck. Right. See, they like that. So go to the website, get that shirt today, because you need to have it on your back, because springs are coming.
Yay.
You felt it yesterday. The temperatures was really nice and warm yesterday.
Yeah.
So spring is on the cusp. You need one of these on your back. As I said at the beginning of the show, I'm working on some things. I'm like the mad scientist.
Yeah.
I'm always working on stuff. And so we just want to allow our country, our city, our state to just kind of deal with this virus that's much more important than anything that we had going on. And we want people to kind of get settled in, and we kind of get through that as a community, as a country, as a nation, as a world. And then we'll be on your calendar. We'll be knocking on your doors, and we'll be doing things. So continue to look out for us as we look out for you. Until next time, you guys continue to take care and rock on.
Yay. Bye.
Thanks, Jada.
Absolutely. Yay.